On today's episode, I'll be pulling a large, oddly shaped dent out of a Mini Cooper. The customer is picky and he wants his car restored to perfection, so the pressure's on. Stay tuned to see whether I choke or if I come through in the clutch. Do you like true stories? Well, I have a blockbuster for you. No pun intended. It started off as a simple crack in the street that slowly turned into a sinkhole. Now along comes a cyclist who rides into the mini abyss, launching the cyclist face first into the Mini Cooper. The cyclist left a lasting impression on the car, his head and body banging off the side of the panel. The impact also took out the taillight lens. Can you guess what famous city this happened in? If you think you know, thumb one out in the comments. I'm standing here at the whiteboard. Let's go over the collection of clutch tools I'll be using. I'm starting off with a 2x4 block, plastic hand tools to remove the parts, and doubling down on the hammers. Also, I need heat from my torch, a few battery-powered tools, and the PDR rod I will use to perfect my work. Next, I need 91% isopropyl alcohol, a clutch performance from my glue tabs, and a mighty dent puller for ripping on the panel. Last, but really first, I'll roll up my PDR light to inspect the damage. Moving on, I'll need to open things up by removing two obstacles. Obstacle number one, that broken taillight lens. I will start by removing the trim with some hand tools, then removing 3 screws to pull the light while popping off the electrical clip and pulling the wire. I'll be careful not to cut myself on the sharp edge from the broken lens. Once removed, I'll wrap the shattered pieces and toss them into the trash. The customer brought in a brand new OEM light to replace the old one. Looking into the back side of the panel, I have some open airspace, but there's still some electrical wire in the way, which I'll have to remove. Turning a Phillips head counterclockwise, I disconnected the wire. The taillight obstruction is now gone. So it's time to remove the second obstruction, the gas spout. Having first removed a few surrounding parts, I can now push the gas spout off to the side. But I'll be sure to put the gas cap back in place to keep the tank from getting contaminated. I am ready to proceed to the next step. The dent puller is in place, adjusting its chain and lining its pulley for a perfectly perpendicular pull. In the next scene, I'll run a test. On my left, there's cold glue. On my right, I have a suction slide hammer. I need more gripping power. Going with the 6-inch suction cup, placing it on the panel. After making several pulls with the slide hammer, you can clearly see the dented crease is so tight that it's not budging. The dent definitely does not want to move. My strategy is simple, but not easy. I'll take 5 glue tabs and line them up in a straight line. Then I'll place the tabs in the deepest section of the dent. Let's go take a look. I have 3 steps. I use alcohol for stripping, my glue for gripping, my dent puller for ripping. It's time to fire things up. I'll use a torch to warm up the surface. I'll pull the trigger on the hot glue gun. Now there's 400-degree glue coming out of the tip, spreading it onto the pulling surface of the tabs. After squeezing hot glue on tab number 1, I'll place it to the left in the deepest pocket of the dent. I'll repeat the process for the next 5 tabs. You guys know what time it is, right? It's time to give myself a shout out. I have a complete line of collision tools to choose from. and my website is listed down below. I'll push the pulling pin through the hooks from one end to the other. Notice the panel has a pronounced roll at the top. The metal is very rigid in this area, making it really tough to get the metal moving. Making my final adjustments to the pin. Now I'm attaching 4 hooks. I pulled the chain tight. These tabs are under a lot of pressure. It's time to run heat on the crown and clear coat. The metal tends to move easier with heat. It's time to start up my Dent puller. We are now making our first pull. Look at that. These tabs and tools are pulling perfectly. The dent is moving and it's so satisfying to watch. Next up, hammer time. I'm grasping a hammer in each hand. I will move through the damage, strategically knocking down high points in the dent. My goal is to make the panel even and flat. And with these hammers, I can smooth out the panel. I'm disconnecting 4 hooks, moving them to the right. Making my second pull. I picked up both hammers, using one hammer as a knockdown on the crown just above the dent. Are you wanting to learn paintless dent removal? Thumb one out in the comments. Next, releasing pressure from the chain. The tabs are lined up in a straight line with the panel. Now I'll remove the tabs. First, I'll take the towel and wrap both ends of the pulling pin to avoid scratching the paint. Squeezing isopropyl alcohol on the glue. Giving the chain a final tug. Here is the results from the second pull. With the success of the glue pulling phase, the next strategic step, I'll be pulling out my PDR bar. I'll use a variety of tips, starting with the larger tips and working my way to the sharper tips. With each tip, I'll need to be precise and on target to achieve a smooth, clean finish. Next, I'm going to place a wood block inside the panel. The block is now locked in, but I can easily move the block if I need to change my leverage point for my rods. A light is lined up and in place. I can clearly see the dent. With the PDR bar on the back side, my head will continue to move as I use the tool to locate and push out each dent. My left hand steers the tips side to side inside the underside of the dent. Returning to the hammers, I gently tap the remaining high points, smoothing out the panel, working simultaneously with the light. If you learned from, or if you liked the video, kindly give back to my channel by leaving a comment. So please pause the video right now and thumb one out in the comments for me. Going back to the PDR bars, this time I run one hand through the gas spout while placing my other hand on the handle. All the pressure is coming from my right hand as it presses into the panel. The light, the tools, and my body are all working synergistically to remove this dent. In a flow state, lost in the moment, fully locked in and focused, I am one with my tools and my mission. I'm honing in on the remaining damage. The shadows within the dent is disappearing from the pressure from my PDR bars. Time to put the Cooper back together. Made my adjustments to the fuel filler door housing pocket assembly. Next, I snapped in the electrical clip. Set the tail light in place, tightened up the screws, popped in the trim. I am now using my battery-powered Dewalt polisher. The buffer pad is cleaning up the surface of the panel. The dent is finished. Let's take a look at the results. Thank you for watching this video. If you're in need of some highly effective clutch pulling tools, or if you're wanting to learn paintless dent removal, you know where to find me. Like, comment, and subscribe, and you'll be notified as soon as I airdrop my next video. Until then, you keep chasing that green paper and stacking it. I'm out.